only mode.
Hello, welcome to Prairie Conservation Action Plan's Prairie's Got the Goods Week. My name is Caitlin Rose and I am the Stewardship Coordinator with Saskatchewan Prairie Conservation Action Plan, or PCAP. Check out other events going on for Prairie's Got the Goods Week. Thursday at noon, Dr. Kenneth Belcher will be talking about value and policy considerations for native prairie ecological goods and services. Don't miss Wetlands Got the Goods by Chuck Deschamps with Ducks Unlimited Canada. That will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. If you are in the Swift Current area tomorrow, swing by Casey's Dining Room at 7 p.m. for a presentation by Ranchers Stewardship Alliance, Inc. called Valuing Ecosystem Services Provided by Native Prairie. Check out the PCAP website for more information about these events and other upcoming webinars. I would like to take a moment to note that in-kind support for this project has been given by Alternative Land Use Services Canada. This project was undertaken with the financial support of the Government of Canada and the Federal Department of Environment and Climate Change Canada. Now, a bit about our presenter. Paige Englot is the Prairie Hub Manager for ALUS Canada. She liaises with community coordinators and serves as a management resource for local ALUS projects throughout the prairies. Paige has been involved with ALUS since 2012 when she came on board as the program coordinator for the first ALUS pilot program launched in Saskatchewan, and has also worked with a number of not-for-profit watershed organizations. Paige obtained her Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, BSA, from the University of Saskatchewan with a minor in soil science. Along with her ALUS Canada responsibilities, Paige continues to actively work with the Wascana and Upper Capel watershed, Walkwater, to deliver ALUS on the ground. Paige is based in Regina, Saskatchewan. Before we begin, I would like to mention that if you have any questions, please type it into the questions section of your webinar dashboard. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And now I will turn it over to Paige.
Thank you for that introduction. Just going to get my presentation going here. All right, awesome. Okay, as it was mentioned, my name is Paige Englot. I've been involved in ALUS since 2012, where I got started as the Saskatchewan coordinator for the pilot area here. Today, I'm hopefully going to answer a few questions for you around what it is that ALUS is doing, how to get involved in ALUS, and a little bit of information about the ALUS Canada New Acre project. So let me begin by telling you a story. New York was faced with a very serious problem in 1997. Their water treatment system could no longer cope with the poor quality of their drinking water. They'd estimated that it would cost about $8 billion to upgrade their treatment facilities. They began looking at a few alternatives, like any rational person might do before coughing up $8 billion. And they recognized that nature and natural processes could provide clean water. They were able to invest in conservation projects on agricultural lands upstream for a total cost of about $1.5 billion. Not only did they save money, but they increased social equity as well. They also got a full suite of ecosystem services. So in addition to clean water, there was a multiplier effect, as they also got wildlife habitat, pollinators, carbon sequestration, and many other benefits. So in doing so, they not only improved their own drinking water quality, but they also had a positive impact on the health of the community upstream. So what exactly are ecosystem services? Ecosystem services include things like wildlife habitat and improved biodiversity, things such as habitat for bees or other pollinators, which are a central part of both natural spaces and productive agricultural lands. Soil health and carbon sequestration are also examples. Even the air we breathe. is a part of ecosystem services as it's produced by a healthy functioning landscape. So ecosystem services are the ecological functions that provide direct benefits to people and our society. They're the things that nature does to keep our planet healthy and balanced. Services that we are quickly losing in our modern world. As we saw in the New York example, ecosystem services provided by upstream environments have a huge impact on communities found downstream. As agricultural pressures rise, we are faced with a number of challenges. Issues may differ from community to community, but we are all confronted by environmental problems of some magnitude. Things such as a warming climate. We are faced with the challenge of reducing our carbon footprints and finding ways to sequester our carbon output. Things such as habitat degradation. We are losing species at an astonishing rate. And things such as water quality concerns. Extreme weather events are occurring more frequently, which increases erosion risk and the movement of farm inputs off the landscape and into our water systems. So ALUS is a solution provider. We're a mechanism to deliver the ecological goods and services needed to solve some of these problems. ALUS puts the problem-solving power into producers' hands. For example, society needs better water quality downstream. That can be provided by upstream producers implementing the ALUS model. So society is increasingly recognizing that ecosystem services have great value to our health and to our quality of life. A strong indicator of this is the increased awareness of consumers. Consumers are continuously showing preference to sustainable products such as free-range eggs, grass-fed beef, or even local produce. But up until this point, lands that have been enhanced for the benefits of nature or ecosystem services haven't been recognized as a commodity with market value. Until now, it was difficult for society to recognize farmers and ranchers for the role they play in enhancing and maintaining ecosystem services. ALUS provides a mechanism for society to pay farmers and ranchers for these services that they're growing on their working land. We allow the production of ecosystem services to be part of a farm's healthy business model, with ecosystem services being viewed as a new crop on the land. We recognize that these services provide benefits to all Canadians, and as such, they should have a monetary value. The ALUS vision is community-developed, farmer-delivered. ALUS sustains agriculture, wildlife, and natural spaces for all Canadians 1 acre at a time. So this 1 acre at a time is built right into the center of this diagram. It's a measure of the ecosystem services being enhanced by the management participants on every ALUS acre. You can see the benefits farmers and ranchers are providing for society. They include things such as healthy habitats, clean water, biodiversity, carbon sequestration, flood and drought mitigation, and ultimately these things have an economic value. The two funding avenues seen here are government and business, and they are directly influenced by the pressures and priorities of society. At its core, government funding is voter-driven and typically targeted to community engagement and conservation impacts. Corporate funding can be consumer-driven or motivated to improve reputation and employee engagement. So how is ALUS designed to meet the needs of farmers and their communities while ultimately providing the societal benefits of ecosystem services? So this pyramid is a broke down overview of the ALUS principles and mechanisms. Starting at the base of the pyramid, you can see the 8 ALUS principles. These 8 principles are the foundation of the ALUS program. It's important to understand that these principles act as building blocks for each community to build their individual program on. Principles, not rules, guiding the ALUS program similar to the role of the Constitution in the United States. So we'll come back to this pyramid a little bit and go over it a little more depth in a moment. But for now, let's take a closer look at these 8 ALUS principles. So ALUS is community developed. ALUS is developed by local communities to be flexible and respect local agricultural and environmental priorities. ALUS is farmer delivered. We recognize that farmers and ranchers are in the best position to deliver nature's benefits on their land. The leadership of the community and the farm participants are central to the ALUS program. It is this grassroots approach that makes it possible for the program to see success across a variety of different landscapes facing a number of diverse environmental concerns and pressures. So ALUS is not a top-down approach to conservation. Each community is empowered and given the tools to guide their program. ALUS is targeted. We select marginal or ecologically sensitive parcels of land which are managed in a way to help better produce ecosystem services. We are not in the business of competing with agriculture. ALUS is market-driven. We realize that the benefits from nature produced by project activities have economic value, and we feel that these should be recognized. ALUS is voluntary. Farmers and ranchers choose to participate, and they have flexible agreements that suit their operation. Furthermore, each ALUS community chooses to be involved in the program as well. ALUS is accountable. Our projects are independently monitored and third-party verified. And finally, ALUS is science-based. So when I say ALUS is science-based, this includes social, economic, and environmental sciences, which are being used to guide the program development and implementation. So now looking back at the ALUS foundational pyramid here. Our mission statement is, ALUS is a community-developed, farmer-delivered program that enables Canadians to make an active contribution to rebuilding nature by funding an acre of ecosystem services. ALUS is an inclusive program. We aim to connect the public to the importance of conservation and allow them to play an active role. The ALUS vision, a healthy landscape that sustains agriculture, wildlife, and natural spaces for all Canadians 1 acre at a time. Each acre enrolled in the ALUS program is an acre managed to better produce ecosystem services, which benefit all Canadians. Farmers and ranchers are the natural stewards of their land. Their work to maintain a healthy landscape should be appropriately valued. ALUS Canada is developing new markets to connect all Canadians with the common goal of enhancing and protecting our wonderful natural spaces. At this point, I'm sure you've heard me use the language ALUS community and ALUS Canada. So what is the distinction between an ALUS community and the role of ALUS Canada? ALUS Canada is the umbrella organization. We provide the tools and support for an ALUS community to deliver the ALUS program. In addition, ALUS Canada works to fundraise on behalf of our communities while simultaneously providing support for fundraising at the community level as well. ALUS communities are local legal entities that deliver the ALUS program on the ground. They are ideally situated to work with farmers and ranchers in their community while guiding the program to target the local environmental priorities. Here are just a few of the local communities organizations that we work with to deliver the ALUS program across Canada. ALUS facilitates the delivery of the ALUS program in 20 communities across Canada, ranging from communities in Alberta all the way to communities in Quebec. In addition, there's also a provincial-wide ALUS program on the island of PEI. So the areas that I oversee in my role as the hub manager are in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. In Saskatchewan, the ALUS program is delivered on a watershed basis in 2 communities, the first being the Wascana and Upper Qu'Appelle Watershed Association, and the second being the Assiniboia Watershed Stewardship Association. In addition, in Manitoba, ALUS is delivered by the Little Saskatchewan River Conservation District. So in Alberta, the ALUS program has been rapidly growing. We are now approaching 10 ALUS communities in their province. As I had mentioned, in Saskatchewan, ALUS is available in 2 watersheds, which you can see right in the middle of this map. And then finally, northwest of Brandon, you can see our community in Manitoba, which is Little Saskatchewan River Conservation District. Now looking at the program in the east, Our ALUS communities stretch from the shores of Lake Erie all the way into Quebec. The longest continuous running ALUS program is found in Norfolk County, where the program has been growing steadily since the inception in 2007. So excitingly enough, we are now approaching a decade. So if you'd like any more details on any of the specific ALUS communities, you can find that at our website. It's alus.ca. But for the time being, I'm going to continue with how the program works. So the strength of the ALUS program can be directly credited to the people. Each ALUS program begins with a person or a group of people looking to make a positive change in their community. This grassroots approach to conservation is something we're very passionate about. Each community is given the tools to guide their individual ALUS program. If ALUS Canada is the machine through which we create change, then the communities and farmers can be metaphorically seen as sitting smack dab in the driver's seat of the ALUS machine. They're the beating heart of the program that allow us to work together to create a healthy landscape. So the power of the communities manifests itself in the form of our PACs, which are our partnership advisory committees. Each community has a PAC helping steer their decision-making process. They act as the backbone of the ALUS program and help to target ecologically sensitive lands and key issues in their area. In addition, they determine the annual payment rate in the community based on their targets, local land rental rates, and the project maintenance that may be needed. The PAC is made up of local producers, conservationists, municipal representatives, and other interested stakeholders. They bring technical resources and local knowledge to the table when setting ecological or geographic targets and when reviewing project proposals. At this point, I'm going to switch gears a bit, and I'm going to talk about what's involved with the on-the-ground delivery of the ALUS program. So this will include an overview of the process of creating an ALUS project in a community and some examples of ALUS projects across the prairies and across Canada. So let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you are a producer in an active ALUS community area. You've heard about this amazing ALUS program and you want to get involved. So let's walk through how a typical ALUS project is approached. The fruition of every ALUS project begins with the producer's vision. As a farmer, you have a close connection to your land. Not only is it your business, but it's your passion as well. As the person out on the landscape, you're in the best position to recognize the areas on your farm that would benefit from an ALUS project. Perhaps there's a heavily eroded creek that would benefit from reshaping and the seeding of the banks to permanent grass cover, or maybe there's an area of cropland that is low yielding and heavily saline. Perhaps your project would be a wetland that has been subject to the pugging and hummocks of repeated cattle access in wet conditions. The possibility of improvements to your land is directed by your knowledge and can be nearly limitless. So ALUS recognizes farmers and ranchers are the natural stewards of the land, and as such, they should be the ambassadors for their project. From the ALUS communities, there's also an ALUS coordinator and the PAC, or the Partnership Advisory Committee. They provide technical expertise and guidance for the producer's vision. Projects are best suited to lands that have been targeted as marginal or ecologically sensitive, and the producer helps to identify these areas on their property. So the next step is the project proposal. A project proposal is put together through collaboration with the ALUS coordinator and the farmer or rancher. Oftentimes, this is done around the kitchen table. One of the tools ALUS Canada provides is the expression of interest. The expression of interest is a straightforward document to be completed by the farmer with the assistance of the ALUS coordinator. So it includes background information such as their farm operation and a project description. At this stage, the coordinator creates a project map outlining the proposed project and the number of acres involved. So the project map seen here is an example from the county of Vermilion River in Alberta. The red dotted line is an exclusion fencing project, and the areas designated by yellow were flagged as saline cropland by the farmer, and they were ceded down to forage grass species. So the information from the expression of interest, along with a project budget and this map, would be submitted to the PAC, or the Partnership Advisory Committee, for review and approval. When reviewing projects, the PAC must consider these three factors to ensure that the ALUS criteria are met. First being, does the activity meet the needs and reflect the intentions of the core ALUS principles? So just to bring the program back to its 8 core principles, those principles being that the program is community developed, farmer delivered, market driven, it's voluntary, integrated, accountable, science-based, and targeted. Remembering that these principles are used to provide guidance to the program, similar to the Constitution. So the next consideration, does the project include additionality? Meaning, are there more ecosystem services being produced than before the activity was done? And the third consideration, does the funding allow for this activity? Or does this activity fit our funding criteria? ALUS projects are funded by a number of different project and community partners, so being accountable to each funder is a central part of the PAC decision-making process. So I'm going to flip through a few examples of ALUS-type projects. ALUS is not a copy and paste model for the delivery of ecological goods and services. We are non-prescriptive. Communities work with individual farmers and ranchers to address areas of concern on their farms. Each project is reviewed independently and guided by the expertise of the ALUS coordinator and the local knowledge of the farmer and the PAC. So one example of an ALUS-type project would be a riparian fencing project. Limiting cattle access to streams, wetlands, and other water bodies can help to enhance the shoreline and riparian health. In addition, water quality has improved, impacting the health of the water body and the downstream communities. Oftentimes, riparian fencing projects will be seen in tandem with off-site watering systems as well. Another example of ALUS-type projects would be the planting of forb or flower species to improve pollinator habitat. These images are from pollinator strips seeded adjacent to working farmland. You can also see that fencing was done as well on these projects. Oftentimes, you'll see a number of different ALUS projects incorporated on a single site. In fact, it's quite interesting because in my experience as a coordinator, when you sit down with a farmer and begin to discuss where the improvement project would be best suited, often their passion and their connection to the landscape helps transform a good project into a great project. So another example would be converting marginal cropland to forage species. These types of projects can improve soil health, improve biodiversity, and help to sequester carbon. So this is a before and after photo from the mapping exercise that we saw a couple slides ago in the county of Vermilion River. On the left, the producer had flagged this area as low yielding. You can see the white buildup along the shoreline, which would be due to salinity in the soil. In addition, there is very little vegetation immediately adjacent to the wetlands. In the after photo on the right, you can see cattail growth along the water's edge and a healthy stand of grasses in what was once that saline area. So this ALUS participant produced an entire suite of ecosystem services from enrolling this project, including improved soil health, sediment capture, and improved water quality, which is just to name a few of the benefits. Another example of a project would be wildlife habitat enhancement or creation. So ALUS projects can also include the creation of habitat nesting structures for waterfowl and migratory bird species. These structures create a safe space designed to reduce the risk of losses due to predator animals. So Saskatchewan is well known as the prairie pothole region, which is key habitat for a large number of migratory bird species. The photo on the left here is of a henhouse installation on a prairie wetland incorporated in the ALUS program. So the henhouses are a cylindrical bundle of flax straw that's perched on top of a steel bar that has been secured to the bottom of the wetland. In the second photo, this is a bluebird box installation. So this image is actually from an ALUS participant in Ontario that runs a grass-fed longhorn cattle operation. Tree planting or shelter belt establishment is another ALUS type project. The image on the left is from a shelter belt project completed near Lajord, Saskatchewan. So the aim of this project was to reduce wind erosion, sequester carbon, and improve biodiversity. This image was actually taken in 2014, and thanks to a couple of really good growing seasons for trees here, the trees are actually over 8 feet tall now. Then the image on the right was a tree planting project in Ontario, where a few community volunteers had the chance to be involved in the tree planting process. This last project was a native species planting done near the town of Maclean, Saskatchewan. So the project included converting traditionally cropped land adjacent to wetlands and a shelter belt, and also adjacent to this project was an unbroke piece of native prairie. So the image on the left is from the early fall prior to the planting, and then the image on the right is from the following spring when some of the grass species began to establish. So the benefits of this project include improvements to the wetlands, biodiversity enhancement, carbon sequestration, and those are just to name a few. Of course, there are many more project examples. The approach of having farmers and ranchers take the lead on the project process allows the ALUS program to emphasize a flexible approach. ALUS is a solution provider and can be understood as a tool in the toolbox to help address the environmental priorities of a local farm and community. So getting back to the process of starting up an ALUS project, at this point the producer has shared their vision with the ALUS community and the project proposal has been submitted to the PAC and approved. So the next step is project establishment. Project establishment is typically done by the producer. ALUS and the landowner split the establishment cost, usually at a rate of 50%. With some projects here in Saskatchewan, farmers and ranchers have been able to receive a maximum of up to 100% of their establishment costs back, and this has been done by coupling the ALUS program with the farm stewardship program. It's worked really well in the province because the watersheds also help to facilitate the farm stewardship program. So in addition to the establishment costs, ALUS participants also receive an annual maintenance payment, which is based on the number of acres they've enrolled. The annual payments vary as determined by the PAC, but in the prairies, the per acre payments range between $5 and $50 an acre. And that depends on the ecosystem services being enhanced, the local rental rates, and the project maintenance that might be needed. So this flowchart is just a complete overview of the process for establishing a project. Just to do a recap, a farmer or rancher would contact the ALUS community. At this point, the coordinator would conduct a site visit. They would bring along an up-to-date map or aerial photo and sit down with the farmer to discuss what types of improvement projects would work on their farm operation. Again, ALUS is not a copy and paste system. The coordinator would bring along their experience from other ALUS type projects and share what's worked for other farms. At this point, the coordinator assists the producer in completing the expression of interest, which will be reviewed for approval. The PAC, or the Partnership Advisory Committee, they review the project proposal and they make the decision to approve or not approve the project. So once the project is approved, the contract is signed, and at this point, the project is implemented. Typically done by the farm participant, but in some cases, it's also done by a contracted third party. Next, site visits are done and an annual report card is used to ensure quality of the project and confirm acreage. Finally, ALUS issues the annual payments, which will be repeated over the course of their term. And finally, ALUS Canada arranges for verification of the project by a third-party outsider on 10% of projects. Okay, so hopefully at this point, I've given you a fairly decent idea of how the program is delivered on the ground. But where does the money come from for this programming? So ALUS Canada uses a multifaceted funding approach. By having multiple irons in the fire, it allows us to maintain a sustainable funding stream. Some of the funding we access here, you can see, include federal government grants, individual donations and sponsorships. We also access voluntary or compliance offset markets, and there has been funding from special interest NGOs, perhaps looking for specific habitat improvements. In addition, we are working to access new markets for the ecosystem services produced by ALUS farmers and ranchers. This builds directly from the ALUS core principle of being market-driven. In fact, we have recently launched our new acre project. So this project allows businesses and individuals to purchase the entire suite of ecosystem services being provided by an ALUS acre. The new acre is a tangible concept that creates connection between the farmer and society who benefit from the sustainable agriculture practices. ALUS receives funding from these various avenues as an exchange. So this means that we are accountable to our funders and we report transparent results. This two-way relationship extends between ALUS Canada and our ALUS communities as well. So in exchange for the funding ALUS Canada provides, we look for the ecosystem services being produced as a measure by each individual acre. You can also see in the diagram that communities have the ability to fundraise and write grants on their own. So a good example of this is in the province of Manitoba, where Little Saskatchewan River has partnered with the Manitoba Heritage Habitat Corporation, in which the goal was to enhance and restore wetlands within their conservation district. So as I've mentioned, the relationship between ALUS Canada and our ALUS communities is a two-way street. ALUS Canada facilitates the delivery of the ALUS program and provides consistent guidance and communication. The communities deliver the ALUS program based on the ALUS model and principles. In addition, they report regularly to ALUS Canada, so this helps to foster a close working relationship and it allows our communities to grow successfully. So just to recap some of the responsibilities of ALUS Canada to the community and the community back to ALUS Canada. ALUS Canada provides money to deliver a proven model. We also provide access to a number of program delivery tools, including a customized database for the community. We provide program support in all capacities, including program delivery, communications, outreach, database use, and this is all done through our readily available support staff. We also provide market access for the ecosystem services being provided by farmers and a tool to recognize the value of that. So in return, the ALUS community provides ALUS Canada with acres from the project as tracked in their database. They also are responsible for budgeting and targeting. They also provide financial reporting on funds and grants. And they ensure that the Partnership Advisory Committee is engaged in their program. So ultimately, the ALUS model is designed to empower the communities to be change makers. The program allows local environmental targets and priorities to be addressed in a proactive manner. So ALUS is a community-developed, farmer-delivered program that enables Canadians to make an active contribution to rebuilding nature by funding an acre of ecosystem services. So let's just discuss this mission statement a little further. The mission statement alludes to the ALUS principle of being market-driven. In order for ALUS to build a mechanism that allows Canadians to play an active role, a marketplace needed to be established. This market has to reflect the cost to farmers for enhancing and maintaining ecosystem services produced by their land. So ALUS Canada has created this market as measured by an acre. By recognizing the economic value of the entire suite of ecosystem services, the new acre project came to life. So market access is available to businesses creating corporate social responsibility. It's available to individuals looking to reduce their carbon footprint. Essentially, the ALUS concept of conservation is a completely inclusive approach. So let's just talk about ALUS Canada's new acre project. Make a difference, make an acre. Each acre of improvement projects done through the ALUS program provide an entire suite of ecosystem services. If we think back to our slides on the types of projects a person can enroll, you'll recall that each project had a compounding effect. For example, let's consider an exclusion fencing project, which would limit cattle access to a water body. So not only will it improve water quality on the wetlands, but it also improves soil health and biodiversity by limiting grazing and disturbances on the plants and soil in the sensitive riparian area. Furthermore, the improvement of water quality on the immediate wetland will also have a positive impact on water bodies downstream. This compounding effect provides the landowner, the community, and ultimately all Canadians with an entire suite of ecosystem services. ALUS Canada has captured this suite of ecosystem services through the New Acre project. By supporting an acre, we can make a difference in the air we breathe. We can make a difference in the quality of our water. The connectivity of water is clear as it moves across the working landscape. Even the spill and fill effect of the Prairie Poplar region emphasizes the influence each landowner has on the downstream community. And we can make a difference by creating new habitats, ranging from habitat for pollinator species or migratory birds to fish habitat and even habitat for species at risk. ALUS Canada recognizes that the management of healthy landscapes by farmers and ranchers benefits all Canadians. Through the New Acre project, we aim to recognize the social, environmental, and economic value landowners provide by creating a market by which these ecosystem services can be fairly valued. We then take it one step further by enabling Canadians to make a direct impact in the conservation efforts of the ALUS program. A new acre and the ecosystem services provided by a new acre can be sponsored by an individual, a corporation, philanthropic organizations, or even a mitigation agency. With this support, farmers and ranchers will dedicate a selected acres of marginal farmland to the production of ecosystem services, with significant benefits for the environment, the local community, and society as a whole. So ALUS Canada is a Weston family initiative, and with the support of the Westons, the New Acre has allowed ALUS to invest in farmers and ranchers across the country, with communities established from Alberta through to Quebec. Just a fun little bit of history on this image here, actually. This was the first ALUS project completed in Saskatchewan. It was completed in 2013, and it was a wetland restoration project. So through the hard work of our ALUS community and the passion and dedication of our ALUS farm participants, we've enrolled more than 18,000 acres since 2008. So for a very Canadian visual, that's about equivalent to the size of 50,000 hockey rinks. So by supporting a new acre, Canadians are helping to maintain these 18,000 acres while allowing us to continue to grow to new ALUS communities. Right now, we're on track to hit our target of 25,000 acres enrolled through ALUS by the end of 2017. So this straightforward flowchart outlines how support of the New Acre helps to support ALUS farmers and ranchers. At the first level, individuals and organizations purchase new acres. These funds go to support ALUS communities across Canada. Each ALUS project then provides us with an entire suite of ecosystem services. So this unique and innovative approach to conservation enables Canadians to make an active contribution to rebuilding nature by funding an acre of ecosystem services. So the ALUS Canada model of conservation, it invites all the players to the table. Each one of us have a stake in the health of our planet, and ALUS Canada has made it possible for us all to take part. Conservation for all, the farmers and ranchers whose livelihood depend on the land, conservation for the businesses who rely on the agricultural production, and ultimately conservation for all Canadians who get to enjoy the entire suite of ecosystem services being provided. So I'd like to finish off my presentation with this quote. A very smart man named Aldo Leopold once said, "Conservation will ultimately boil down to rewarding the private landowner who conserves the public interest." The concept that producers have a big part to play in conservation is not new, and essentially it was this idea from which the ALUS concept was born. So I just want to thank everybody for joining on this webinar. I really hope it's been informative. And I especially want to thank Caitlin and SAS PCAB for inviting me to come share some information on ALUS and taking part in this Prairie's Got the Goods week. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm just going to flip to the next slide where you can see some of my contact information.
Thank you very, very much, Paige, for the interesting presentation. I found it very inspiring. We do have a couple questions here from our listeners. If any of our listeners have questions, please feel free to type it into the question section of your webinar dashboard. The first question is from a listener named Sherry. What is the role of Indigenous groups or Indigenous land management practices in the program?
In the past, we've had land groups such as that invited to join our ALUS PAC. Oftentimes, though, the ALUS program isn't accessed on those lands. It's being restricted to agricultural lands. So in the case where a project would take place on those lands, they would be involved in the consultation process.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question is, what can average any-day Canadians do to get involved?
Absolutely. There's a range of ways to get involved. Of course, the New Acre project is part of it. Another way to get involved is to check out our social media. We do keep up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so they can follow us there to see what ALUS Canada is up to. And another way, if you are a farmer where there is no ALUS community, you can also reach out to us and we can keep track of your interests. And as we grow across the country, we'll reach back out to you. So there's a lot of ways to stay involved.
Great, thank you. That's all the questions that we have at the moment. If anyone in the audience has a question, please feel free to type it in now. I would just like to remind everyone to check out the PCAP website to look at other events going on for Prairie's Got the Goods Week. We have presentations going on the next few days. All of our webinars are being recorded and uploaded to the PCAP YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/user/skpcap, including this video here, so it'll be uploaded later today and you can pass the link on to anyone who is not able to make it today. I'd also like to mention that after this presentation, there's a quick questionnaire. If you don't mind taking the minute to fill it out, we would really appreciate that, and that helps us with our funding so we can do this event again in the future. And if anyone has any questions that they're not comfortable asking right now, you're welcome to email Paige for more information about the programs that they offer. I guess that's everything. So hopefully you take a look at the PCAP website for events going on tomorrow, and all of our events are free. You can just register through that website. So thank you very much, Paige, for this great information, and PCAP will try to pass on some of the programs you talked about, some of the links, and share it on our Facebook, so people can check our Facebook to get some updates about ALUS Canada. So thank you very much, Paige, and have a great rest of your day, and thank you to all of our listeners out there.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.